It's an absolute pleasure, and I'm curious to hear, your nomadic journey and see where you're at in life and where you see it going. So, why don't you take a minute, first of all, to introduce yourself and tell me, who you are, what do you do, all that good jazz.
Yeah, happy to be here, Kyle. Yeah, I'm Namit Jindal. I founded a company called Deliverability Ninja. We are an email deliverability and lead generation company. Our goal is to help B2B companies generate more sales, and I typically work with sales leaders to increase their email metrics. Now, popping onto the question who I am, that's an interesting question, something I think a lot about.
Hmm.
If I had to define who I am, is just an individual who wants to leave a positive impact on the world, and I want to test my personal limits.
Right on. Interesting, dude. When you say positive impact on the world, my mind goes a few different places because I'm thinking, every positive has a negative. There's like do you view the world as a sort of a potential ground for, a total balance, or do you think that there is an equilibrium in place, or do you think that it's potentially off balanced right now, and your goal is to reassess and help rebalance things to find that equilibrium between positive and negative? Maybe even if that's the case, to reverse if you perceive it as more negative than positive right now. How do you view the whole thing?
So ideally, how I see when I say I want to leave a positive impact is like I'm gonna probably take up any one industry, right? Maybe like 10 years down the line, it's gonna be ed tech, maybe it's just gonna be entrepreneurship in general. And I want to leave a very positive impact in that industry alone, rather than thinking about like something like what Elon Musk is doing, right? Like where he's targeting like five of the biggest world problems. I want to pick
Yeah.
one topic, one problem, leave a positive impact there, and hopefully like that gets everything into equilibrium, or that industry itself gets impacted positively, which will have a ripple effect on everything else.
Yeah, that ripple effect interesting too, man. The domino effect. Yeah, no doubt. The butterfly effect. Yeah, so it's interesting, man. So is that where you see your company Deliverability Ninja contributing to? Because you're really at the core of it connecting people, right? So is the overarching problem that you're trying to solve?
Initially, no. I think the overarching problem here is like, hey, like, how do I help people grow their business, generate more revenue? And I believe like every individual needs to have like three kinds of businesses or ventures, however they want to call it. One for money, second for purpose, and third for fun. I think this is more of like a fun plus money business for me.
Okay, okay.
Maybe eventually like I find my true purpose. As of now, I'm really enjoying this, and purpose is itself is like a very malleable statement.
Hmm, a malleable statement. That's an interesting point. Let's get into the tactics a little bit, of what you do, because we can explore the philosophical, the spiritual, and the overarching theme of what we could be, the bird's eye view, 50,000 feet in the air. But I want to kind of explore the feet on the ground approach with you, because you've got some tactics for email deliverability, obviously, and helping people really make connections with folks who they're not connected with right now, which could be incredibly valuable for clients, for potential joint ventures. Everything involves connecting with people. And so you're talking about having that connection at a scale. So why don't you walk us through, where would we start when it comes to starting a cold email campaign?
Yeah, I love that. I love that question because right down to the basics. So there are four things you need to do to be successful in cold email, right? And this doesn't matter if you're like a small company, big company, who you're reaching out to. The tactics change, but the pillars remain the same. So number one is deliverability, right? I can have the best in the world, whatever email list, whatever, but if your emails don't make it to your prospects inbox, it's pretty pointless. So the first thing that I would recommend most companies is like, hey, like do not use your main domain. So don't use, for example, for you it's epub.ai. For me it's deliverabilityninja.com. Do not send cold emails from your main domain. So go to GoDaddy, go to Pokemon, buy a bunch of domains, right? And this same logic applies to every single one sending cold emails, and people don't do this. send really low volume from each domain, and that, along with a couple of other basic tricks, covers your deliverability part.
Yeah.
The second is lead list. You need to understand who your target audience is, who you're reaching out to, and they need to have the problem that you're solving. So deliverability is all sorted. You get the principles over there. Can go into details if you'd like, but second is lead list. Now I have like 500 people, maybe less, maybe more, maybe 1,000 people who I can sell my services to. Third is just finding out like, okay, what's the major problem that they're having, or how do you package your offer as the most no-brainer offer possible? Like it needs to be like really easy for them to say yes, or in other words, they should feel stupid saying no to that offer. And fourth, it's like once you've tested, have the first three. If your target market allows, just crank up the volume.
Right. And so that goes back to full circle with deliverability again, because you crank up the volume, baby, and then you're like, oh shit, the availability can go down,
Mhm.
especially if you're not doing it proper, right? Because the way I look at it is, and correct me if I'm wrong, didn't you send me an email for this podcast from your actual domain? So you're not drinking your own Kool-Aid, man. So what's going on?
The first email you got has to be from a secondary domain.
I don't
And
know, man. Let me double check here because
yeah,
I remember
and
looking at it.
that points out to one thing people don't notice. People do not notice where the email came from or comes from. So I have a lot of people telling me, hey, like, what happens to my brand? And like, how can you give me like additional emails? The name isn't exactly similar, but people don't care as long as it's like sounding similar. So
And you can
let's see.
redirect it to your domain. Actually, I'm double checking here, and you're right. You sent it from deliverabilityninjaworks.com. And so you can do all kinds of variations that all just forward to the main domain, right? You know, deliverabilityninjapro.com, source.com, whatever. And then you
Yeah.
redirect. So you're not sending from the primary domain. Then you manage the replies from one domain. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. So for us, because we've like, I'm always testing new things that come out and with deliverability, right? Started with deliverability ninja like what 1.5, 2 years ago, and we're at a point where we've used all the obvious names possible. So like, with like the getdeliverabilityninja.com try, we used them day one, and I burned so many domains testing out new things.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I just pick up random nouns where I'm like deliverabilityninjablue.com, and it doesn't matter, like it who cares.
Interesting. Yeah, because I do the same thing. What I do is I limit it to two or three names per domain. So I'll have,
Mm-hmm,
and then I'll have like maybe 20 per domain, 20 per email being sent out. So there's only, and then you can kind of scale it up, but you definitely don't want to get over 100 per, and from my understanding, per domain. So if you got three sender profiles from a domain, you
mm-hmm,
can maybe get up to 33 from each. But then
mm-hmm.
after a while, you start getting over 100, and then the deliverability can drop. As I've seen, I tested the shit out of it, man. I was like, all right, so this is the limit here. So, what about AI, man? Because you can get into syntax, you can get into all kinds of things to sort of vary the output that's being sent, which
Mm-hmm.
obviously dramatically improves, from my experience, the deliverability aspect of it. How do you get into the personalization? You use AI, the syntax? What's the method?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing, like just to close up the deliverability point, is you can break every rule of deliverability if people actually want your emails. So if people are reading, replying to your emails, like you can break every single rule of deliverability. One thing over there. But the truth is like most people don't want to read your emails, no matter how good they are. So you only get those 5% reply rates, 10% reply rates, and that too, like that's one of the better cases. But answering AI, and then AI is huge, like in generating specific lines. So like you're super familiar with AI. I think a lot of people who probably are listening to this, like you cannot generate complete emails off of AI,
No,
but you
I
can
don't know.
give them. I mean, like I'm excited to try something if you're coming up with it. I've never seen anything that can generate entire sales emails off of AI, but generating specific personalized lines, or maybe like a couple of words that are hyper personalized, That's what like AI comes down to. And that's really, really good. Like for relevance, for actually getting responses.
Yeah,
Spin tax, yeah.
Instantly.ai offers that, right? They do like certain lines of you can import the data, the CSV file with all of the contacts you've got with whatever data you have on each of them, and it will
Mhm.
create an individualized line for each person. But I'm talking about sending a fully customized AI written email for each individual, man. That's what we're doing. It's something we've been able to accomplish internally, and we're getting 33.5% reply rate on completely cold emails. And that's just at the beginning of the testing. So it's fascinating. What do you think about that, man? You said it wasn't possible, but I'm telling you, man, we're doing it. That's how we get most
So
of our podcast guests.
yeah, so that's interesting. So like podcast guests, like one thing I would say is like podcast guests are definitely skewed because like everyone loves to be on a podcast
Yeah.
and like it's either way. So like I'm interested to see like obviously not close to nothing at this point, but a very well trained AI by someone who has sent cold emails in the past and understands the basic nature. That might be possible, and I'm interested to see. I haven't personally seen it, but I don't disregard that thought. The basics out there, the Claudes and the GPTs of the world, the basic ones, at least the publicly available ones, just had bad results on initial testing.
Depends on the prompts, man. We use GPT-4 as the engine right now, and then 5 is
Okay.
coming out soon, which I can't freaking wait for. But yeah, we're using GPT-4 as the engine, and it's terrific. It seriously is because we've trained it up so that it's beautifully
Mhm.
writing the copy. The text parameters, the formatting, it's all in there, and it's actually producing seriously impressive results. So yeah, we can talk afterwards, man, because it might be a partnership we can work out here. If you've got the clients, we've got the AI that can individually write each email for you guys. So there might be
No,
something there.
I love that. Yeah, I mean that'd be definitely cool.
That's what I love
I
about podcasts, man. Opportunities pop up, right? You don't know what's gonna happen. So yeah, that's always interesting, man. So anything else you got to add there before we move on to the next one?
No, I think like it's pretty, AI definitely changed the cold email game. I think personalization becomes a lot easier now. And most of our emails now are like hyper personalized, but it's a tricky slope. So for those, like you have to understand that your personalization needs to be relevant to the email, right? You can't take first line off of the LinkedIn, like the listeners out there, and be like, hey, saw that you went to Indiana University. Here's me pitching my services.
Right,
That
where
is
it's like
something
the
people
old
have.
school, yeah, because that's
Yeah.
the way it used to have to be done, man. The placeholder would be like insert school here, and then like you can get clever with it with like if then rules, but at the end
Mhm.
of the day, you're very limited with what you can customize. But
Yeah.
what about syntax? That brings us back to that.
Spintax?
Syntax, yeah.
Spintax.
I think of it as syntax, man. There's some interesting logic behind that slip, but go
Yeah.
on with syntax for me.
Yeah, Spintax, spinning syntax, I think that's what it's called.
Yeah.
Um, just a basic deliverability checklist point at this now. Like, obviously, if Google, Microsoft, considering they're the two major email providers, I mean, Microsoft and OpenAI, so like if they had to like find out whether you're using Spintax, it's pretty easy for them to do it.
Yeah.
But we've seen it helps. I think it's just one of those things they aren't looking at right now. So that's like a must do for all emails. It's a non negotiable for us. Any email we send out heavily spin taxed using GPT,
Unless the whole email is written by AI, because that's the next
unless the
thing.
whole email is written. But
Yeah,
I'm very interested to check that out.
I'll show
If
you,
that can,
man.
yeah,
Yeah, we got the whole
for sure.
system set up, brother. So, all right, let's get on the next one because this is leads, and this is it's interesting and can be tricky if you don't know exactly how to do it. So, where do you look at the because you got 4 steps. The next one's leads. Where do we go with
Yep.
here? Where do we start?
So this one's really interesting because, like, I would say 90% of people get this wrong. When you say leads, you mean like, okay, like emails, right? Most people, when I say a lead, people think about emails.
Well,
But
email is one
contradictory to that,
tactic, but you could
yeah,
use SMS, you could use in the post mail. The lead is any of the above.
Yeah, lead is like a contact. That's what people think about when you do it, right? Email being like referring to as a contact. But when you're generating a lead list, especially in the email world, you should always start with accounts.
With
So let's say
accounts.
you're doing accounts, so companies. So if you're sending B2B campaigns,
Hmm.
the first step to do is to generate a list of accounts that you should be selling to.
What do you mean
And then
accounts?
companies.
Companies, and then you're going to go get the emails for each individual that could be a decision maker within the accounts or the companies.
Exactly. Because going from like account slash company, so we'll just call it a company going forward, going from a company to a contact or a person, extremely simple. The Apollos of the world have made it really cheap.
Hmm.
Getting those companies, and like that's the skill in itself.
Mm.
Because getting those companies, once you find out, okay, these are my ideal target profiles, and these are people who will definitely buy from me, need my services, everything else becomes easy.
Interesting. So the way I see that playing out is you find a company, let's say for joint ventures, for example. Let's say you're looking for JV partners and you could say, okay, I sell X. What do people also buy when they buy X? Well, they might buy Y and Z. So then you go partner with the companies who sell Y and Z. So you would find those names of those companies. Let's say LinkedIn, for example. Then you can use automation to find all the individuals who could be the decision makers within that company for selling or contributing to the sales of X in some way at the same time as some sort of synergy where it's mutually beneficial. And then you could, find all of those names, get their emails, just straight up scraping them from LinkedIn with automation tools. And then the way I see it happening is with all that data, the automation scrapes up. You can also combine that with the other names within that company. So it's like, hey, Susie, I just got in contact with Alex and Joe, who you might know because you guys work together. And then we're also going to send you a unique email for you as opposed to just a templatized or spin tax kind of an attempt at it. And you can write each person an email and have it all done automatically at scale. How do you play it out? Is that kind of the process?
Yeah, that's interesting. So for us, similarly, what we do is step one is finding a list of companies that are ideal prospects. So those can come from anywhere, right? Like there's Sales Navigator, there's Apollo itself, but like the third part is like specialized databases. Like there are specific databases for healthcare, there are specific databases for VCs and stuff like that. And the fourth is obviously like scraping websites. So you're scraping stuff like G2, or maybe like you're doing selling to real estate agents and they have their own websites. So we find that list of companies itself, and then we just put them through Apollo or one of those waterfall providers like Better Contact or Clay to get emails.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying the podcast, and I want to let you know that I've got a free book that you can get if you want to tap into more of these resources. And you can get that for free at kylesbook.com. Back to the podcast.
Okay. And then you scrape any other data that you can get on them, right? I mean, it's crucial to have as
Mhm.
much on each individual as possible. That's why I like
Yeah.
LinkedIn for it, because you can take all of their posts, you can feed everything on their profile, like from day one into the AI, and it will come back with kind of a view into that person's psyche and be able to
Mhm.
write messaging for that person based on the way that they think. Because
Yeah.
what they write, the way that for their bio about me, whatever, that's all in a kind of a glimpse into their soul, into their psyche. And then the AI
Mhm.
can capture that, overlay it with an undercurrent of psychological understandings and underpinnings and principles, and write a persuasive as all hell piece of copy for that person. And they know it's for them because it's so hyper personalized. That's the way I do it, man. I
Absolutely.
love it. That's why I like
I
LinkedIn
love
for
it.
it.
I think the next step here would be like AI would be able to analyze their posts and writing styles and figure out what kind of emails they prefer. Because, like, yes, the general rule of thumb is like write smaller emails, but like, what if someone likes to write long emails? And then you can send them emails accordingly, depending on who they are, what they like, whether they like to be super direct, whether they want like more information, what their actual
Yes.
personality is.
Yes, yes. Hmm. A book
And
for
that
that,
would
man, is you'd like this book for that exact purpose. It's called Words That Change Minds by Shelley
Mhm,
Rose Charvet. And she wrote a book that goes into it's actually based on NLP. You can analyze somebody's language patterns and understand exactly what their primary mode of thinking is when it comes to a certain criterion. So
mhm,
somebody writes when they're talking about business, they're always saying, "Oh, I see what you mean," or "I hear that," or I feel what you're saying." If you notice patterns in that when they're writing about certain topics, the AI can pick that up, and we can do it in conversation too. But it's easier if it's automated in that scale. I love it. You pick that up, and you understand. Okay, this person when they're thinking about business, specifically this part of their business, they think visually. So they've got a picture
mhm.
of it. They're saying, "I see what you mean," or I was imagining this," or "I was envisioning this." The AI can pick that up and then write a visually cohesive and persuasive copy or piece of copy for that person, knowing that they think visually when it comes to this. So you can match their internal world. And that's the way there's all kinds of for hyper specific people, as opposed to general. There's, 7 or 8 different criterion that you can target. So it's a great book for that, man.
I love that. I think doing it at scale, one thing that people miss out on, like, is like not all companies can really use a lot of AI. And then you gotta, because like the costs add up really fast if you're not doing it correctly. So that's why like a lot of like other companies we've spoken to, like they're failing because they just spend so much money on one table. And it's like, okay, how do you do AI at scale in a cheap way? Like getting data needs to be as cheap as possible so that you have enough budgets to play around with other stuff. Or your average order value is so high or average contract value is so high that it doesn't matter.
That's always the goal for me, man. I like that style. Yeah. Okay, so we're still at the lead stage. So you mentioned exactly, how you go about getting the leads, where you find them. Do you have a specific automation tool that you use? Apollo, yeah. You can even use like Hunter IO or whatever. There's a lot of tools like that out there, but what about for getting emails that aren't immediately available on common databases where they're getting hit up by a lot of other people that got access to that same database?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So um, there's a couple of waterfall tools out there, and their purpose is they'll check every single tool available in the market, and they'll give you the email depending which tool has it. Because while like 80 to 85% of data is similar, this remaining 15% really counts. So there's one
Oh,
called bettercontact.rocks. I think we've been using that. And then obviously, like if you have Clay credits left, which we typically do sometimes, so we just use Clay for that.
okay. All right. So then you
Mhm.
can type in the demographics, hopefully psychographics of the people you're trying to hit up. How do you know who to
Mhm.
target? How do you know who's going to be, and then to type in the criteria for the program to search through?
Yeah, so that's pretty direct. Most people understand that, hey, like we want to sell to marketing leaders, sales leaders, to C-suite. This is going to be the decision maker in like these employee range categories. What I mean by that is like typically when you're selling a service, 1 to 10 or 1 to 20 employees, you can hit up anyone in the founding team and they have decision making powers. That's who you want to meet. So we use Apollo a lot for this, and like between 1 to 20 people, you can create categories. Like you can create specific personas that, okay, if 1 to 20 people, give me like CEOs, founding team
Mhm.
members. Between 20 to 100 or 20 to 100 people, give me VPs, directors, and stuff like that. 200 above, give me like senior managers or sales leaders who would be the right fit for our services. And then once you have the company information, getting that becomes a piece of cake.
Right. And that's what I like using LinkedIn again, because you can run a simultaneous campaign where you're hitting them up on LinkedIn, where you found the contact information and then all the data that you get on them, which is incredible.
Yeah.
But then you can also do both at the same time. You're hitting them up on LinkedIn at the same time as when you send an email. And when you can correspond the two like that, whether it's, Facebook, it doesn't have to be LinkedIn, whatever. But if you can hook up two different platforms where you're hitting people up on for the same thing, it could be powerful.
Yeah, that's super interesting. We built this one thing, and after I try not to do a lot of outreach on LinkedIn at the moment because but like it's like we've built like a sync between like Expandy and like which is like the LinkedIn automation tool and Smart Lead. We've connected through like a bunch of integrations, and now it's like even platforms that are best for email smartly/instantly, and like Expandy, which is like best for LinkedIn, can talk to each other, and you can truly
Interesting.
send multi-step, yeah, emails.
Powerful, man. Yeah, super freaking powerful. Yeah, I love
Hmm.
that. So you've got that hooked up where they can send a corresponding message. Like if one person gets hit up on LinkedIn, you can have that person get an email the same day saying, "Hey, I just hit you up on LinkedIn," without having to do any manual work in between.
Exactly, yeah. And if that person replies either on LinkedIn or the email, the other thing does not go. I think that's like a challenge people face when they
Yeah.
do two different tools. It's like if they reply to you via email saying either yes or no, ideally you do not want to keep hitting them on LinkedIn.
Yeah, yeah. Which and it's hard because then if you don't have that hooked up to be automated, you end up not doing it. You end up just leaving it, and then you could fuck up a deal because you didn't turn it off on LinkedIn. Then they realized it was automated, and then they feel stupid because they're like, "Oh shit, I replied to an automated email when I thought it was manually written," and then you could lose a deal like that, which has happened. So you gotta watch that as well. What else you got for us in terms of the lead acquisition and the second step?
In some second step, like obviously there's like verification of leads, which should be something like it doesn't matter where you get your data from. Second is like understanding triggers. So if there's like certain triggers which compel your audience to buy. Now this is hard for some people. Some people it's really easy. Some companies, like if you're a recruiting company, your basic trigger is a job posted on LinkedIn, Indeed, slash. Like that's your trigger. That will give you enough contacts or companies to reach out to that you won't need anything else. So like try to find those if possible. It's hard if you don't know what your trigger is or if you don't know what's possible. But yeah, if anyone in the audience wants to brainstorm that, happy to do it with them. But
Yeah, it's harder when it's invisible, right? Dean Jackson talks about there are visible contacts and invisible contacts. Visible is easy, like chiropractors. You can find them
mhm,
through LinkedIn search, Google search, whatever. But what's harder is finding somebody who's interested in buying hockey skates. It's like, oh yeah, sure, you can look up hockey on their profile, but a lot of people don't have that. So it's they're an invisible lead. You got to sort of it's a totally different marketing game. A lot harder to get access to their information. And my favorite way to do that would be joint venturing, find out, what else. Maybe there's a hockey stick company that has access to the buyers. If they're buying hockey sticks, they're probably interested in buying hockey skates too. All
mhm.
kinds of synergies that you can target and work out these deals. And that's what I love cold email for. It's the sort of, instead of going direct to the customer, you're allowing
Mhm.
yourself to go a level higher and kind of have that overarching view into what else they're buying and find who else has access to the target audience. So you don't have to go find the leads one at a time yourself.
Yeah, I mean, like marketing is all about like getting your offer in front of the right people as often and as many times. So like cold emails, like
Oh, as
really
effective as
effective Google
possible.
ads. Yeah, cold
Yeah.
email is like really effective and efficient Google ads. That's how I think about it.
Interesting. Because that's something that crossed my mind is the future of paid ads, Google ads, Facebook ads, whatever. Who knows what it will be? The future of it is going to be hyper written for each person, not just right now we can't even change the name in the ads. Soon enough, it's
Mhm.
going to be to the point where it's the same as cold emails written by AI. You can have the ad rewritten for each person who sees the ad, and I'm excited for that too, man. So also lots of exciting things happening in the marketing game right now.
For sure, yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Like now that we're talking about that, like what are B2B, right? Like they basically use cookies to find out what LinkedIn profile has visited your website. So like one thing we do over there is like we get a Slack notification when someone visits our website. That goes into Clay, gets enriched, and then we send it to like our sequencer to automatically send them an email.
Right. Yeah.
So that's again a little different from like the ad world, but like that's exactly like now it would be so easy to target them with personalized ads as well.
Interesting. Soon enough, it'll be to the point where you can use the cookie to do that for each person. A new cookie for each individual in combination with a new ad for each
Mhm.
individual based on what they actually clicked on, what the original point of contact was. And you can do that retroactively too with an existing email list. Analyze all of the purchase history, what they opted in for originally, and be able to craft individualized messaging based on all of that, which is freaking powerful as all hell too, man. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure the technology is already there. Like, I think it's just like privacy laws and all of that stuff probably make it hard right now navigating. That is a little complex, but I would imagine targeting someone based on cookies and changing the text seems to be like a pretty easy job.
Yeah, you could do it right now with UTM parameters. It
Mhm.
changes the URL. You can have their first name, last name, and then you can change the actual website that gets viewed by them because of the UTM, which is
Mhm.
kind of a beginning stage of it. Soon enough, the whole website's going to be made for each person, which I'm freaking stoked for. It's like a webinar. Imagine opting in for a webinar. The AI scans your digital presence and then creates the webinar in real time for you based on what it predicts is most likely to make you want to buy. And
I love that.
it's so cool, man. For movies too. Picture a movie being made for you in real time based on what you like. I'm
Mm.
excited for that. Um, Journals. I got a whole bunch of journals I've kept over the last 8 years. I'm excited to be able to pump all that content into an AI and have it
Mhm.
understand me more than I understand me to be able to make these hyper personalized movies recommendations on what I should buy. I just bought a condo, so how can I kind of furnish it the best that I'm gonna like most long term? It's all expected to do that. Even scheduling. If it notices that on Wednesday at 2 o'clock I get creative for whatever reason, then I can have that noticed and taken advantage of, where before you might not have noticed it.
That's interesting. I love the use cases when it comes to AI. Like, I think that just like it's gonna increase the gap between someone who's able to use all of this and like someone who's like completely ignorant. And you're gonna
Yeah.
see like the people who can really leverage AI just so far ahead of everyone else.
Hope so, man. That's what I'm hoping for. I agree with you. There's no doubt about it in my mind, but who knows? We'll see, man. I 100% agree with you. But again, it's hard to predict these things, dude. It's very difficult. Like, you could argue the other side of it, which is somebody who sees a version of what the future might look like with it might be blinded to what's actually happening in reality, which could um actually lower the opportunity, because pluses minuses to everything. So it's interesting. What about, are you from India originally?
Yeah, so I'm originally from India. I moved to the States when I was 17 for my undergraduate.
Okay, okay.
Um, yeah, got my job after undergraduate, then decided to start the company. I'm actually planning to move back to India for like 10 months or something. I miss my family.
Interesting.
And then, yeah, and then I'll figure out
How do you think spirituality tails into all of this?
into cold email or into
Yeah,
like the world in general.
cold email.
It's interesting. I think like I've never seen like a phase where I can personally connect spirituality and cold email. I think they're like two very different things, but then it's also like spirituality exists in everything, and you can like find peace of mind and just like in wherever you go.
Yeah, right. I mean, I see them as one. I think that bringing the people together is one of the most noble and beautiful things that you can do, and cold email contributes to that. So I think about it as coming together as one, which is to me hyper spiritual, and that's the way I look at it. I was curious because with your Indian perspective on it, because you grew up in India, so you've got a
Hmm.
different world view than the typical Westerner.
Oh, for sure, yeah. I think like I think meeting people in general, like cold email can help you meet anyone in the world.
Yeah.
And that's like just cold outbound in general. Like that's really powerful. And it's also like there's like I've been reading about it. It's like ideally you can command time from the busiest people in the world if you know how to write a good email, cold email.
Yeah, I got Mark Cuban to reply the other day with my completely AI written email. Zero. I didn't even know the email was being sent out to Mark Cuban. But yeah, I got a reply from him. He said no to what the AI was proposing, but it's still cool that the AI got him to reply. So he didn't know it was AI. It just kept following up. I looked at the email history. It just kept, bam, bam, bam. Finally, he replied. So it's this is going on as we speak, which is something that I love, man. Because what the AI does is it researches everything about that person. If they got a book, it reads the book. If there's a free PDF version online that it can find, a lot of the time it understands exactly what they've written about, even from the synopsis on Amazon, for example, and then was able to use that as a kind of a window into their psyche and write based on what it sees in there, which is a fascinating way of putting it. Yeah. So, anyways, man. So what's the third one? Because we got first of all was deliverability,
Deliverability,
leads, and then
offer.
offer. Okay.
Like offers like a huge one. So there are two kinds of offers, right? Like one of them is like demand capture offers. So like you're thinking about like website design, dev services, and then the other one are like demand generation offers, which is like if you have a specific SaaS product, people don't know about the solution, or they don't understand the problem entirely.
Mm,
Cold email works best for like demand generation offers. Demand capture becomes harder because it's
yeah.
harder to differentiate yourself, and then you're just pumping volume. So like ideally you need to identify where your offer is, and then you need to create like a no-brainer offer from that.
Do you present the email to have the offer within it, or do you use the cold email as an opener, which then you can take them off email or continue the conversation over email to then kind of hint at the offer and move them through the sales cycle?
I think the basic offer needs to be there. Like your offer does not necessarily mean like your biggest sale. Your offer means what you're offering to someone, right? Like for us, our offer is like we will double your open rates and reply rates within 90 days. That's our offer.
Hmm.
Like that's the most no-brainer offer I can think of. And then we have the guarantee that if you don't do it, you don't pay. But in my cold emails, sometimes I'm offering an email deliverability audit. Sometimes I'm offering them like a free 1,000 leads. And
Hmm.
if that's an offer itself, that's like mini offers to my main offer.
Right. How do you identify those mini offers to your main offer?
Just write down all the benefits that you provide. So our benefit is we give data, our benefit is we help write campaigns, our benefit is we create a tech setup, our benefit is we help you identify where there's deliverability problems. Write down all the benefits of your main offer, and then you have 5 mini offers that can be
Okay.
spun up into their own thing.
So let's say somebody takes you up on the double your leads and open rates and whatever within 90 days. What do you, so like give me an example what that initial email looks like, and then you expect a reply of yes or no to then
Mm-hmm.
move them to where? Show me the whole flow.
So, just to make sure I understand your question, what you mean is like, let's say someone takes me up on, let's say I'm cold emailing for myself.
Yeah.
Okay. So, let's say I'm pitching my main offer, right? Like, let's not talk about mini offers for the sake of simplicity. My main offer is I'll double your open rates and reply rates within 90 days. And I send that in an email. I talk about, hey, like this is a problem companies are facing. You might be facing this problem. And this is why I think you might be facing this problem that could be personalized. So sometimes we check their DMARC records. Sometimes we check what software they're using. And I can help you double your open rates and reply rates within 90 days. That's it. Plain, simple, to the point. That's what we've seen sales leaders prefer. And they say, yes, sure. How do you do that? Send me more information. Or they just go to the website and book a call.
What about the bottom of
Either
the
those.
email? What does it look like? Because you can't just leave it open ended like, hey, I do this, and then that's it. Your name at the bottom. You got to have some sort of hook, some sort of like in telling them what action to take and do that skillfully. What do you put at the bottom?
Do you want more information? Do you have 20 minutes for a quick chat or a lead magnet? Like it's either
Hmm.
like a hard CTA or a soft CTA. So one thing that really worked for us, like in December. So do you remember when like Google and Yahoo posted that like big deliverability scare?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We created our entire process, a video of our entire process, and that was a lead magnet. We can help you do this. This is our process. Do you want to link to it? And
Mm.
so your CTA is either like a lead magnet. It's mind. Do you want more information or do you want to hop on a call?
Interesting. That's a key point because you don't put it in the initial email. I found my deliverability was like 0 when you, as soon as you put a link in it, file, even a picture in your signature, nothing. You want to just bare text. And then when they reply, then you can send them the link and the steps to take next, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's what we've noticed as well.
Yeah. Well, it's
Is that
interesting, man. Yeah, well, okay, go on. What have you noticed?
so like having like sending plain text emails just works better,
Mm.
especially if you're emailing enterprise clients. Like if you email smaller companies, you can get away with a lot more stuff. But if you're emailing like bigger companies, better defense systems, they have Proofpoint, Barracuda, all that stuff, then you need to be really send good emails. B, send plain text emails. Do not mess with links
Have you
or
tried
images.
different? You ever tried different fonts, like the Courier font, with it looks like it was hand typed? I've had interesting spikes with that, where it's like because it looks like it was hand typed. There's some psychological like trick that gets played there, where it's obviously it's automated, but since it was written by the AI, it's all for them. And in Courier font, like the typewritten kind of look, the
Mhm.
reply rates went up a little bit. Have you tested different fonts?
We typically use plain text emails. I have not tested it, but that's going to be an interesting A/B test for next month. I'm excited.
Test it out, man. Yeah, with the courier
For
font.
sure.
I don't know what it was. It's just like, especially with the older folks, it kind of just it triggers some sort of, oh, this was handwritten for me kind of a
Mhm.
vibe. So this is something to test out anyways. I like the way you look at things as testing rather than just accepting it at face value and doing it. So yeah.
Yeah, for us, everything needs to be tested. Like, that's one bad thing, like, bad and good thing is like when I'm testing deliverability, like, there's going to be like a new provider out in the market, and I'm going to be testing those, and I'll send some of my internal emails. And, like, as someone who's pitching deliverability, you cannot have bad deliverability
Yes.
yourself.
Yes.
So it's like
Yeah.
I was testing this new provider in February or something, and like I sent like 1,000 emails, and all 1,000 went to spam. And I was like, oh shit, like never doing that again. Like I probably lost those 1,000 people forever.
Yeah, it's embarrassing, eh? Especially when you're the one that you're supposed to be the professional. It happens,
I
man.
mean, it's
Yeah.
email. Like I don't think like anyone's 100% of anyone's emails go to the inbox. Like especially when you do it at scale, like you're looking at like 95%, and that's like better than most people out there anyway.
I think we got 100% only because A, we don't have any bounce rates. We're hyper focused on making sure that they're verified, but then also because it's handwritten, quote unquote, for each person who gets it. So the emails are completely different. It's not just, some spin tags here or there, first name, company name, whatever. Since the email is totally different, right now, the email providers aren't picking up on the fact that it's AI written. So, and then hopefully we
I
can
mean,
get the emails
th-
better in the future, which we will.
there's no way to know it's 100% to like no one knows whether your email landed in inbox or spam except the person who received it. So like yes, instantly,
You can
smartly,
track
these
it.
guys.
There's a way you can track it by attaching some sort of like for example with Active Campaign. It's not a cold email software, but it does tell you how many landed in spam. So there is a way that you can hook up
So
an email so it's got that software
yeah.
behind it.
So how those work is like they tell you like past your first spam filter, like where like there's like an absolute rejection. That's
Mm.
possible, but then like what about the promotions folder? Right? Like if it made it to the inbox, but then it went to like the spam folder rather than like actually email providers marking them as spam. What about those filters? So like there's like a lot of filters, and like people don't know whether like even like these Glock apps and stuff, the way they do it is like they have their own inboxes you email to, and that's how they find out.
Well,
So
yeah, because that brings up another thing with the deliverability part of it, which is the email warm up. You can use AI tools to those are common now, like with any cold email provider, to warm up an email. And the way that works is pretty cool. It has a bunch of AIs sending and receiving emails from each other and marking them as primary emails and replying to 30 or 45% of them or whatever, which is something to keep in mind too. So
yeah, that's pretty cool. I think that's a necessary step, but like a lot of people depend on warm up solely companies, which also doesn't work. Like you can't have like bad email practices and then
Mm.
run warm up. That's like, yeah, like you can't, that's like your house is on fire and you're trying to throw like a bucket of water or something.
Yeah. No shit, eh? So it goes back to the content at the end of the day. What's the next one? So we can hit all four of them here because we had first one was deliverability, second leads, third offer, fourth is what?
So you've got your deliverability in order. You know your emails are making it to the inbox. You have like a good lead list, right? Third, your offer and offer slash what you're saying. So like you have a no-brainer offer, you know what to say whether you're using AI. Fourth is like just crank up the volume. I think a lot of people like are hesitant to do this, but if you're getting whatever, right? If you're getting like 10 meetings from like 200 emails, you're going to get 20 meetings from 400 emails. There is absolutely no reason for you to not send more emails.
Unless you're fully booked, man, you gotta be careful.
You just get a sales, you just hire a sales rep, right? Like you sell a podcast offer. So it's interesting, right? Like you are like very solely you dependent, but like so many companies out there aren't. So like your thing is perfect. You're selling like something that's high demand. You have deliverability in order. You do not need more meetings. But almost like every other company can hire a sales rep if they're consistently booked out.
Yeah.
So why would someone not, unless you don't want to grow? Like that's different. Then it's like you're not trying to grow.
Yeah, you might not have the infrastructure to back up the clients at the end of the day. That's a different story. Where do you
Mhm.
see the future of it going? Where's the opportunity right now?
Um, it's gonna become harder to get delivered into the inbox. I think AI in emails, what you're talking about, excited to test what you guys are doing. Um, that's definitely a part of the future. Private infrastructures, that's going to be one of the futures, but like high quality enterprise infrastructures. And I think like you can't just spam people anymore. Like your domains burn out so fast when you're spamming people. So it's going to become harder to send cold emails. Better cold emails will stay. But it's like it's cold calling. It's harder to cold call people now, but like it's still out there. People are making sales off of cold calls.
That's true. That's true. Soon enough, AI will be able to do that too, and then the effectiveness will go down because of the quantity that goes up. Yeah, there's have you ever heard the AI cold calls? It's pretty freaking
Hmm.
crazy. Where it's like, damn, dude, you can see the AI at least in the short term future, even being able to take them through the sales process and maybe close a deal soon. Eventually, it's going to be a no brainer. I had the opportunity. I should have bought it, man. I had the opportunity to get pitchman.ai. I think that would have been a sick domain for an AI salesperson. Didn't get it. Fucking regret it. Is what it is. But yeah, it's cool to hypothesize what's going to happen with it. With
For sure. I
scale.
think in the
Oh, go ahead,
go
man.
ahead. Yeah, I was just adding to your point. Like long term, like that it needs to be absolutely perfect. You need to understand like that's one of the things where like you probably lose a prospect if they find out like what they're expecting to be humanized is like actually AI. So like if
Yeah.
that cold call or like even your first meeting, right? You can't have AI run those unless it's perfect.
Unless it's perfect. You're right.
Yeah.
And maybe soon, man. I don't know. One of the things we want
Well,
to test. I
sooner
think
than what
so.
most people do. Yeah,
And it
100%.
will happen. It's just a matter of when, assuming that it's not made illegal tomorrow or some shit. You never know. But the one I want to test right now is in this. We're working on this. Is creating a video for each person, like a joint venture partner that you can reach out to, and the AI either changes your lips or if it's not quite perfect yet, and generates the voice, obviously for the customization for each person. So it's the same as cold email, but in a video format. And if it can't get the
Mhm.
lips perfect, then it can switch to B-roll as the customized parts are in place, and then switch back to the video of you, uh, personalized for each person. That's tech's not new. That was available like last year, but it's interesting to see the new applications for it. Yeah,
Absolutely, yeah.
I love it, man. So, dude, you got anything else to add? Like, what about this? If I were to ask you any question that would
Mhm.
provide maximum value for the listener, but I'm not asking it, but if I were to ask it, it would hook us up. What would the question be?
That's interesting. So let's see. So different listeners have this, right? If it's a listener who doesn't have a business, I think coming back to like my impact on entrepreneurship, just start, dude. Like that's gonna be like your question to me would be like, what would you say to someone who doesn't have like your own business yet? It's gonna be like, just start. Don't spend 6 months trying to create an LLC. Takes 2 hours to do it online. Don't
Not
spend too much
even.
time doing market research, right? Like if it doesn't take you a lot of time and money to build something, like don't even do market research. Just release it for that one person you're building it for, and then you'll figure it out later.
Don't even do market research. I don't
Like it does,
know.
like just build something, especially if it's your first business. It's like,
Yeah.
you might not succeed, but like you will reiterate as you understand the market. So like stop wasting time. Like a lot of college students, because like I was there I was there at one point. I still have talked to a couple of college students. They'll pitch their business ideas and like they won't do anything about it. It's like, that's just so stupid. You're gonna regret that 5 years later.
Yeah, right. And we don't want to live life with regrets, man. It's easy to look back and be like, shit. Like with the pitchman.ai, it's like you guys sometimes you got to pull the trigger, baby, and see what happens. And yeah, a lot of overthinking can take place, especially with the opportunity level that's available right now, man. There's so many things we can do. And so it's about picking, I think to me, I heard Sam Altman ask this question in a YouTube video today, and I found this fascinating. He said, what do you feel morally obliged or morally obligated to implement, to do in the world right now? And I found that to be an interesting filter in terms of finding out in choosing what to do, what to focus on. It sort of helps you narrow down. So there's something there too, man. So brother, dude, I love it. I had a cool conversation with you. We'll talk after because I want to see if there's some sort of opportunity where we can test out our AI for you guys.
For sure, yeah. Yeah, excited to talk after. This was fun. This was a lot of fun. And yeah, let me know if you need any other help, if you have any other questions.
Right on, dude. Where do we find you? Deliverabilityninja.com.
Yeah, that's one place. LinkedIn, if you want to reach out to me with any questions, pretty active there.
Cool.
So those two places are the best ones.
Love it, man. All right, brother. I appreciate you being here, and we will talk very soon.
All right, bye.
All right. I hope you enjoyed that podcast episode. And if you want to get a free copy of my book, go to kylesbook.com and you can get a copy there. I'll talk with you soon.